Hey everyone, this is Yami, your Latina next door. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have August Look for Less Challenge. If you are new here and don't know what the Look for Less Challenge is, it is a challenge that I host every month with a different co-host. This month's co-host is Yelena over at Blvd next door. And in this challenge, we ask you to take on a high-end home decor piece and recreate it for a whole lot less. If you participated this month, don't forget to add your video to the playlist. The link is included in my description box. So once you're done with my video, don't forget to check out everybody else who participated. That playlist link will have a ton of inspiration. All right, let's get started with my Look for Less. While online looking for some fall inspiration, I came across this wreath at Kirkland's. And if you know me, you know that I am a sucker for blues and neutrals. This wreath is absolutely stunning, and since I want to change up my color scheme this year, I thought it would be perfect to try to replicate with a few things I had on hand and a couple things that I needed to purchase. I definitely knew I could recreate this for less than $65. So I looked through my seasonal craft stash and I found these pumpkin picks that I had from Hobby Lobby from a previous clearance. I had these pumpkin picks from Dollar Tree as well. I have 2 packs here, but I only ended up using a couple of the orange ones. I also had a stash of these pine cones, again from previous projects that were just left over, and I had just in case I wanted to add some more pine cones for my holiday decor. I started out by wanting to use this ribbon, however, it was not wired, so I was not able to use it in the end and I had to replace it. And then finally, I purchased this grapevine wreath at Hobby Lobby. It's only $4.99, and you can also use a 40% off coupon for this to get it even cheaper. However, I had something else that day that I had to use my 40% off coupon, so I bought this for regular price. And then I had all these greenery stems from just previous projects. You know how sometimes you use flowers and just parts of stems or bushes? Well, yeah, I keep all of the ones in case I need them for future projects. So I took some of my Nantucket blue. It's the same blue that I used for my Christmas in July truck sign, and give some of my pumpkins a couple of coats. Now, I know that some of the pumpkins on the original wreath were velvet pumpkins, but in order to keep this cost effective, I just decided to use what I had on hand, and that was paint. Now, since I like the placement and the number of pumpkins that the original wreath had, I decided to only go with 6, and I used 2 of the Dollar Tree orange pumpkin picks, and then all of my leftover Hobby Lobby picks from previous years, for a total of 3 white and 3 blue pumpkins. Then I took my full cart brushed metal in bronze paint and I proceeded to paint all of the stems in order to elevate their look a little bit. Now, the original wreath also had berry stems, so I took some old stems. This was just one little bush that I had left over from Dollar Tree last year, and painted the little berries in French blue acrylic paint. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little difficult getting that paint in all of those little nooks and crevices, trying to make sure no orange peeked through, but I promise it was totally worth it. And again, to follow the inspiration, it did have 2 different types of berries with slightly different colors, so I decided to go with a really pretty grayish green color that I had. It's called Morning Mist, and I decided to just use, again, more leftover Dollar Tree berries from previous years. So after everything was painted, I kind of gathered all of my items, and then I started cutting all the pieces of greenery that I wanted to use. Now, as you can see, I'll have all sorts of leaves, but I did want to actually have a little bit of consistency when it came to the color. I didn't want anything too bright green. I wanted a lot of muted colors that would work well with fall, and lots of soft textured leaves like lamb's ear and eucalyptus. So once I thought I had enough greenery, I decided to go ahead and start placing them in. I left the stems so I can stick them in through the wreath form a little bit easier. Anything with a smaller stem, I would actually add some hot glue to the end and then stick it in the wreath. That way it would adhere and stick better. And because I didn't have an abundance of greenery, because I was using what I had to be really strategic in how I placed things, making sure I covered everything to the best way possible. And I even left the area on top where the bow was going to go without greenery to make the rest of it fuller. And I also added the pumpkins in the same places where the original wreath had them. Now at first I just inserted them just to hold their places, but then later on I came in and cut the stems and glued them down. And then I did the same thing with the pine cones. I would go in, place them where I wanted them, and then I would adhere them with hot glue. So when it came down to the little berries, these were kind of long, so I stuck one end inside the wreath form and then I hot glued the other end to keep it in place. And then I proceeded to distribute them evenly throughout the wreath. And since the larger berries were very light and were in smaller chunks, all I needed to do was hot glue them right on. And then I just proceeded to continue filling the wreath until I was happy with the result. And then came for the ribbon. Now this is the ribbon that I ended up using because it was wired. I had it on hand. I had bought it because I thought it was so beautiful, and it just turned out to be the perfect color match to the blue pumpkins. Alright, so I'm not that great with bows, and I'm sure there's probably a better way of doing this, but I cut 3 pieces all the same length, and I kind of looped them around like this and held them at the center. In order to keep them that way, I did add a little dot of hot glue to all of the ends to keep that little loop in place. And I was wearing my finger protectors here because this wreath happened to give me my worst hot glue gun burn ever. So if you see these at Dollar Tree, get you some and use them before you get burned. Then you want to overlap them over each other, making an X and then one straight down the middle in the back. Then I took a little piece of elastic and then just tied them together to hold the bow in place. At this point, I do like to fluff up my ribbon just to make sure it's not going to look crazy before I make anything permanent on it. So when I'm happy with it, I add a ribbon over the center of it to go over and make like the little legs that kind of hang down. And then I hot glue the front part of it down to the bow to keep it in place. And then I flip it over and then I twist the back part of the ribbon so that the front facing part of the ribbon faces forward. If not, then you'll see the unfinished back part of the ribbon. I glue the ribbon down in the back and then I come to the front and I tuck under that front piece of the ribbon and I glue it in place as well in order to hold everything in place. Then I cut the ends of the ribbon to make sure that they are both even and give them little angled cuts to make them a little bit nicer. I used a little elastic on the back of the bow to adhere it to the wreath form. And with that, the wreath is finally done. I am so pleased with how this wreath turned out, and I am loving these colors for fall. And the beauty about this is that you can recreate this wreath in your very own color scheme with items that you already have on hand. I'd love to know what your color scheme for fall is this year. But first, let's see how we did. Now, the original wreath at Kirkland's was $65. Now, the items that I purchased that were not left over from previous projects were the wreath form, the ribbon, and I used 1 pack of those Dollar Tree pumpkin picks. Everything else I already had on hand. So that came to be $8 out of pocket because all of the greenery, all of the berries, and all of the paint were already in my stash. So before you go out this fall season and purchase an expensive wreath, definitely check out what you have already that you can reuse, repurpose, and repaint to suit your color scheme this year. So I hope you enjoyed this month's Look for Less challenge. Thank you so much, Yelena, for being my co-host this month. Don't forget to check her out as well as everybody else in the playlist link who participated for the month of August. Now, there will only be 2 more Look for Less challenges for this year. So there's one still left for September and one for October. Don't miss out on those. And as always, don't forget to check out my second channel, The Latinos Next Door, where we share more behind the scenes. All right, I'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Until then, adios.